If you're thinking that the only path to retirement is working harder, saving more, and investing in the stock market till you hit 65, I invite you to the 10x Your Financial Freedom Through Real Estate free virtual experience in September. I'm going to be going over my proven framework that I used to get to financial freedom at 41 in a few short years while working full time and raising young kids. And I know that you can do it even in the current market with interest rates the way they are, and even through a recession, because hundreds of our students, many of whom are busy physicians just like you, have used the same time-tested strategies to acquire over $200 million of real estate. And on day 2 of the event, you get to meet some of them and hear their stories, how they got to 6 figures in passive income while saving hundreds of thousands of dollars in taxes in this market. So if you're tired, burnt out, and ready to take back control of your time and income, if you're struggling with getting your first long-term, short-term rental, or investing in syndications and you don't want to learn from costly mistakes, or you feel like you don't have the time or money to get started, or if you're ready to go from a handful of rentals to 10xing your cash flow, we will be building your personalized recession-resilient real estate portfolio so you can accelerate financial freedom while paying less in taxes. So get ready to go from working harder to working smarter. Register for the event at generationalwealthmd.com/event in lowercase, and I'll see you soon. I hear this all the time. I don't have enough money to get started in real estate. And oftentimes it's just a limiting belief, which is why I'm super excited about talking about this specific topic, because there are so many ways to get creative in real estate investing. And that's because we can use leverage in real estate investing, right? That's when you get a mortgage. We can use other people's money. And there are so many ways to get creative about financing that I am excited to deep dive into. So oftentimes you're able to get started with little to no money of your own. How amazing is that? Welcome to Generational Wealth MD's podcast on financial freedom through investing in real estate. My name is Param. I'm a mom, radiologist, real estate investor, and mentor to others looking to start or scale their real estate portfolios. The goal of this podcast is to provide you with inspiration, strategies, and insight so that you can stop trading your time for money and live life on your terms. If you love the episode, don't forget to subscribe and leave a review. And so to make this more interesting, and as I was writing down my notes, what I did is I looked at this different ways, right? I thought about if I had to start all over again from scratch, right? And I only had 5,000 or 50,000 or 500,000 to get started investing in real estate. How would I approach things? How would I look at it? What would I do? And how would I get started? So I'm hoping that this allows you to think about each stage differently. There are people in each stage. Most of you are going to fall into the middle category, but this was an exercise that I wanted to play with, and I hope it gives you tons of insight. Okay, let's get started. Let's start off with the first category, which is if I only had $5,000 to get started investing in real estate, how would I do it? Now, the two key words for someone at this stage, if I were at that stage, would be I may have to put in more time because I don't have a lot of capital, and I have to get creative, right? So time intensive and creativity. Those were the two things that came up for me. 3 strategies. First one being if I only had $5,000, and if you guys can guess this, drop it in the comments. I'd love to hear. But the first one, actually, let's do this as an exercise. Anyone listening to this episode, drop this in the comments, in chat. What do you think the ways are if you only had $5,000 to get started investing in real estate? Okay. So the first one that came up for me was education. Now, this would not have been my answer 10 years ago. I'm an immigrant. I came from India. Definitely not something I would have thought of it as an expense and not as an investment. But in hindsight, knowing what I know today, spending 6 figures in coaching every year, I have for the last few years, and I will continue to do it. I realize how much time and money I save. It compresses timelines for sure. And that would be my number one option. If I had 5,000, I would invest in my education. We do have a free coaching event coming up, 10x Your Financial Freedom Through Real Estate. If you have not signed up, this is free. It is virtual. There is no reason you shouldn't sign up. The strategies you're going to hear, people pay thousands of dollars to listen to this, right? We have other physician speakers coming and talking about their journeys, or students coming. So definitely sign up. It's generationalwealthmd.com/event in lowercase. It will change your mind. It will blow your mindset. If you've if you already have a multi-million dollar portfolio, this will still blow your mind. My goal is to give tons of valuable information to everyone, right? So definitely sign up. But why is education so key? There are three reasons. A, it gives you strategy. And I think starting out, you're thinking, okay, let me go learn the strategies. That could be saving. Some of our students have sheltered close to $500,000 of income from taxes in 1 year. Now, you can't use it all in 1 year. It carries forward. You can use up to 600, you can shelter $600,000 of clinical income from taxes. But how do you learn those strategies? How do you know that's even possible? You do not know what you don't know, right? So strategy. But the bigger thing is going to be mindset shifts, really embodying it, really shifting the way you look at things, your perspective, and taking action, right? That's something that you don't realize on this side before you get started. But education is super important for strategy, mindset, and for community. So if I only had $5,000, I didn't have any other money, capital to invest in real estate, I need a community of people who are like-minded, who are thinking like me. But more importantly, I need partners, right? I want to partner with someone to learn from, but also capital partners so that they can bring the capital. I bring the sweat equity, right? And where do you find that? You find those in communities, right? So strategy, mindset, community, education is going to be the number one thing I invest in. Now, number two, because we're talking strategy here, you know me, we don't stop at one. The second thing is going to be creative financing, right? So if I only had $5,000 to invest in real estate, how would I invest? The first one is going to be, again, so creative financing, 5 subheadings over there. First one's going to be, how can I invest with 0% down? So a 0% down payment, I can get a physician loan, right? No PMI, 0% down, a VA loan if you're eligible for a VA loan. And I can house hack, and I've done this, where you can purchase a property and you can rent out, if it's a 3-bedroom, rent out 2 bedrooms to other renters, and you can use the income that you're making to pay off your mortgage, right? And so you could essentially be living for free. This could be in a duplex, it could be a triplex, all right? You could do this with small multifamily, you can do this with a single family home where you're house hacking in certain rooms, or you're renting out rooms. In a duplex or triplex, there's obviously more privacy and it works really well, especially a side-by-side duplex. You could also buy a small multifamily and do the midterm rental or short-term rental strategy in the other units. You could also get tax benefits if you're able to do that, right? If you have a short-term rental, it's the duplex. If you have a short-term rental, you can bonus depreciate the basis that is attributable to the other unit. You could also do this by the rule if it is a single family unit. Some of our students are doing this with duplexes. Some of them are doing it in a single family home. Depends on what stage you're at. But again, it's a way to get started with 0% down. You could take the 5,000 and use it for furniture for your midterm rental or short-term rental, right? If it's just a room. So 0% down loans. The second one is going to be joint ventures. And this is what I talked about when I talked about education. You're looking for capital partners. You can joint venture. You can be the person. It could be friends and family. It could be someone in a community that you're part of, masterminds that you're part of. They bring the capital. They have capital. They don't have time. You bring the sweat equity, right? And when you are doing this, again, remember, you need to know your strategy to run numbers. You need to have a plan. Oftentimes, you need to present this in a presentation and run them through it and get them to see your plan, understand that you know the numbers. A big part of this is going to be having that education, which is why I said education is where I'd spend that 5,000, and then find these partners to partner with, where I'm again taking no capital to the table, but sweat equity to the table, right? Now, third thing in this list is going to be wholesaling, right? Wholesaling is a way where I get assigned a property, right? And again, this could be time intensive because I'd be using direct mail, I'd be using driving for dollars, right? To find sellers who are willing to sell their property and aren't in a position to upgrade it and get the best possible price for it, maybe, right? So sellers are willing to sell. I get the contract assigned to me, and then I assign the contract to the end buyer. In the process, I make a profit. Again, you need connections for this. This is time intensive. This is not necessarily, again, this is a way to generate income and not wealth. It's definitely not my go-to, but if you had to do it, this is definitely an option. And then in terms of creative financing, seller financing is another option where your seller becomes the bank. Here you need a seller. Again, you need to think about psychology. What does the seller want? What are they motivated by? Sometimes it could be a larger monthly payment, not having a huge tax implication when they sell the home. They want a steady stream of income. This is typically an older person who has tons of equity in the home, and they want a steady stream of income. You're able to provide them that. They act as the bank, and seller financing makes sense, which means you may be able to negotiate going in with little to no capital, right? Or there may be a situation where this is the last piece of creative financing if you have only 5,000 to invest, where you're being creative about how you're getting the capital to the down for your down payment. That could be by borrowing from a 401. It could be through a HELOC, a home equity line of credit, which most likely is from a primary, but sometimes can be from an investment property or a personal loan that physicians have access to, right? You get those products, use that for the down payment. So you're tapping into other sources of equity, not necessarily taking a large down payment to the table from your savings. So that's as far as creative financing. If I only had $5,000 to invest, right? How do I take money to the table? How do I close on a deal? The final one I want to touch upon is REITs. If you've heard me speak before, you know that for me, real estate investing is all about returns, tax efficiencies, and you cannot start investing in real estate with lower amounts with REITs. But my spectrum for real estate investing starts from syndications being passive, going all the way to short-term rentals. REITs tend to be tax inefficient. The returns typically are 8 to 12%. They mirror the stock market. They're also slightly more correlated to the stock market. So they're not necessarily what I would consider a real estate investment that gives me the benefits of investing in real estate, but it is an option if you only have 5,000 to invest. Okay, so now let's move into the category that most of us fall in, right? I have $50,000 to invest. How am I going to invest my money if I'm just getting started? The two key words for me that came up for me as I was penning this down were being creative with financing. And this is where you get to choose to be passive if you want to, right? You don't have to put tons of money, tons of time into investing. You can be passive if you choose to. Okay, so in this category, again, 5 different things that came up for me. And if you're listening, keep dropping in your comments what came up for you so I know how everyone's looking at this. But the first thing I'm thinking, if I think I only have $50,000 to invest and I want to get started in real estate investing, is to be able to go in with a lower down payment, is to move to markets where the home prices are lower, right? This could be the Midwest. This could mean out of state investing for some of you. Now, this could be the Midwest. It could be markets in Texas. You want to go into landlord friendly markets. But I think the key takeaway over here for someone thinking about investing out of state is that it can be done successfully. My first few properties were all in Houston, Texas. I started out with out-of-state investing. I live in California. The barriers are often just barriers in our head. You do need to have a strong team in the market, which is why within the Creating Generational Freedom coaching program, a big part of what we do is also connect you with reliable agents and property managers in those markets. But that being said, you can do it very successfully. And if you want to listen to stories of people doing it successfully, definitely join the free event. That's generationalwealthmd.com/event. But going into a market where home prices are lower, that's a way to get started with lower down, with 50,000. Now, second thing, creative financing is still going to be over here. So you could still house hack, like we talked about, buy a duplex or a triplex or rent out rooms and use to long-term renters, short-term rentals, mid-term renters, and use a physician loan or a VA loan and get lower down payments. This is also the category where you wanted to invest in short-term rentals and use a 10% down second home loan. You can, as long as you're meeting certain criteria. So you're able to start investing with less than the traditional 25% down. You can start with 10% down, which is another creative financing strategy. We'll be talking more about this at the 10X event, so make sure you sign up for it.
If you're a physician looking to grow meaningful passive income, did you know that you can do that by investing in real estate without having to find properties, analyze complicated numbers, oversee construction, or deal with tenants? In 2020, after working 10 years as a radiologist, I realized that if I followed the traditional method of investing in the stock market, it would take me until my 60s to be able to retire. So I deep dove into real estate investing, and by the age of 41, I had 6 figures in passive income from my real estate portfolio that allowed me to cut down to a day a week in medicine to spend more time with my young family. I've since gone on to help over 15,000 other physicians learn about earning meaningful passive income through real estate investing. And here's the best part. Even when you invest in real estate syndications passively, without getting involved in the day-to-day work, you still get to benefit from 2 to 3 times higher returns, including tax-free cash flow day 1. So if you're done with working harder, taking more call, and living frugally, and are ready to put your money to work for you, book a call with our team at gwcapital.com. We are constantly underwriting and doing due diligence on multiple deals in strong markets, doing all the heavy lifting for you. And we present some of these deals only to members we have connected with previously. So if you are ready to seize the opportunities present in this market and get off the sidelines, book a call with our team at gwcapital.com so we can learn more about your goals, walk you through the process, and get you priority insider access to our better deals.
In the current environment, you can't just buy a short-term rental and rent it out successfully. You have to be very strategic about how you're managing your property and maintaining visibility, pricing, right? So you want to learn all those strategies. So definitely hop on for that for the free event. But this is also where you can go in with 10% down, a lower down payment using a second home loan. But you're also able to tap into tax savings when you materially participate. A lot of our students are able to go in, get higher returns just because of the nature of it being a short-term rental, right? Higher cash flow. They're able to go in with lower down payments, and oftentimes they're able to pull out the capital that they put into the property because they're able to tap into tax savings, because of which they get losses that they can use to shelter their clinical income from taxes, right? So tons of strategy around short-term rentals, but you can get creative with financing with a 10% down loan. Definitely join the free event. You want to learn these strategies. And then the third thing as far as creative financing is joint ventures again over here. But at this state, when you have 50,000, you may be able to reach out to hard money lenders instead of just reaching out to friends and family, because you do have some cash available for a down payment. Oftentimes, they're going to give you 75% loan to value based on the after repair value of your property. So you have options over here. Okay. And if you're listening to this and going, oh my God, I have no idea what she's talking about, join the free event. This is a lingo. It's like learning a language. The more you stay in the environment, this becomes second nature, and you're able to pick and choose what makes sense for you. These are essentially different tools in your bucket. And I think it's always important to know what your options are so you can pick and choose which one you're going to use at different times, right? Seller financing, again, is an option over here when you have 50,000 for a down payment. Again, you're looking at possibly older investors who are looking to sell with more equity in their properties, right? Now, we're moving on to the passive section here, because suddenly now with 50,000 to invest, you have the ability to stay as a passive investor and invest passively in syndications where the general partners take care of the day-to-day execution of the business plan. You are going to be doing your vetting before you invest. We have a free guide for those of you considering investing passively. It's gwcapital.com/guide. And that's capital with an A. And, always important to educate yourself, but you do have the option to invest passively. So it isn't as time intensive. You can get started with most projects have a $50,000 minimum. We do have an opportunity open right now where we're getting really close to the funding deadline. But if you are listening to this and you want to check it out, gwcapital.com/Houston. And again, this is a great opportunity for first timers because it is a low risk deal with higher returns and we already have this approved. We have an 85% tax exemption going in day one, which allows us to boost the net operating income of the property right away and allows investors to get significantly higher returns with lower risk. So definitely take a look at it if you are considering investing passively. Even if you aren't able to get into this deal because we're really close to filling up, it's an educational experience for those of you thinking about doing it in the future, right? So that's gwcapital.com/Houston. This one's an excellent deal, low risk, but higher returns. It's usually lower risk, lower returns, or higher value add strategy with higher returns. This one's the best of both worlds, so check it out. So that was number 3, you get to be passive. And now the fourth strategy for someone with 50,000 to invest is it's something that students like to do quite a bit, where you can mix and match strategies. This is where you're using the same pot of money. Now you're at the stage where you can use the same pot of money over and over again to scale your portfolio, right? That is by doing rehabs using the BRRRR strategy, right? You go in, you put capital in, you buy a property, you rehab it, you bump up the equity in the property right away by adding value to the property and rehabbing it. And then you refinance, pull out that capital and use it to buy the next property, right? And you can also do this when you're employing the tax strategies we talked about with short-term rentals or real estate professional status, where you buy a property and because you're materially participating in it, you're spending more time on it, you're able to use the depreciation losses, which are just paper losses, against your W-2 income. And the tax savings, you then just take that back and you use it to buy the next property. So you're recycling your capital over and over again. I think that's a great strategy that you can now tap into once you have 50,000 to invest. Okay, now last point over here, this is also where people will talk about flipping. Similar to REIT, it's not a strategy that I recommend, because when you flip, you're generating income, you're paying short-term capital gains, it's huge for most of us. You're not generating wealth. It's just income that's taxed inefficiently. So it's not something I typically recommend, but it is an option. Okay, now moving on to the last category. If I had $500,000 to invest, how would I do it? If I was starting from scratch, the key word over here is going to be passive. If I had that much capital to invest, I would want to really buy back my time and stay passive in my investment strategy, which is what I'm doing at this stage. And the important question to ask yourself at this stage is always going to be time, right? How much time do I have to spend on real estate, or how much time do I want to spend on real estate, more importantly, right? And so if you are an active business owner, or if you run your practice, or if you are an influencer and your time goes over there, do you really want to be active in real estate, or do you want to stay passive? That is going to be the most important question you're asking yourself, because you could still, at this level, go active in real estate. And I would say the only reason to go active in real estate is if you're at this level, is if you're actually tapping into the advanced tax strategies that we talked about, that we'll be talking about at the free event. And if you want to do that, then go active. Otherwise, I would highly recommend staying passive and really valuing your time. So we'll talk about both of those. So if you are investing passively in real estate, now there are two ways to do it again, right? You could invest passively in syndications, like the Houston deal that we have right now. And if you are considering investing passively, gwcapital.com, that is our passive limb for those of you who want that option. And so you could do that passively. That's what I do at this point. I invest my capital into all of our syndication deals, right? So it keeps me pretty passive over there, because I have the communities to take care of. We have the nonprofit, right? So my time is going into that. My real estate portfolio at this point is passive. I'm investing passively into each of our deals. Or you could go into a joint venture, right? And still stay passive. You could be the person taking the capital to the deal, and you could have a sweat equity partner who is putting time into it, right? So you can stay passive with direct ownership or by investing in a syndication. And so what are the considerations that should be top of mind as you're doing it? First one's always going to be partnerships, right? Partnerships break up. Partnerships may not be strong enough. You want to partner with the right person who has a track record and who has done this before, executed successfully, who has the right attitude and who has the same long-term goals, right? If your goal is to hold on to the property long-term, then your partner has to be on the same page. If you are looking for a 5-year hold because returns are more important to you and you want to hit a certain return metric, you cannot do that with a longer term hold, because your returns start muting the longer you hold. So is your partner on the same page, right? So vetting your partner is going to be key. Second one is going to be due diligence, because if you're in syndications or if you're in a joint venture with this amount of capital, you're likely looking at larger deals. And in the commercial debt space, you really want to be vetting your debt, making sure you take on safe debt. That's going to be a big part of your due diligence, right? The third thing is going to be looking at risk. And so it's returns is one part of it, but you want to really hone in on your strategy, right? What is your hold period? Longer hold periods, lower risk, lower returns. If you're doing rehabs, you are taking on slightly more risk because the goal is to bump up rents and there's a business plan that needs to be executed, but you're getting higher returns, right? Where do you fall in that spectrum? Now, the good thing about the Houston deal is that the Cortland Med Center is that this is a lower risk deal because we're not rehabbing the properties and hoping to bump up rents, but it's giving you value add returns because we're already approved for the 85% tax exemption day one. We're taking property taxes down from $1 million to $150K. That's already approved. So we're lowering the risk, but we're still getting those value add returns because of bumping up net operating income. So for you at this stage, you want to look at strategy from the perspective of risk, right? How much risk do I want in my portfolio? What returns am I looking to get? Where do I land on that spectrum? Again, if you're looking at the Houston deal, that's gwcapital.com/Houston. Last few days to get into that opportunity if you're looking for a safe, conservative syndication opportunity. Now, after risk, the next thing you're going to assess is going to be, this is an interesting question because I get this all the time, but it's a very important question. Do I look to diversify? If you're looking to invest in syndications, do I put my $500K into 5 separate deals, or do I keep my portfolio simpler? So it's simplification versus diversification, right? And what always comes up for me when I help walk people through this is what Warren Buffett says. Why the diversification is only required when investors don't know what they're doing. So it's a very interesting question. And I feel as people scale their portfolios, where they fall on the spectrum is going to shift, right? So how do you know where you stand and what you should be doing? I always tell our investors to think about three different things, right? How much capital do you have to invest this year, right? If it's only 500K, then you need to make a plan for that. The second one's going to be, what is your current portfolio looking like? And if you already have adequate diversification, maybe you're going to lean towards simplification, right? So what does your current portfolio look like? And what are your asset allocation goals, right? If you already are 50% into alternative assets, you're saving 500K this year, 50% is going to go into the stock market and 50% is going to go into real estate. So now you know what bucket you're playing with, how much capital you have to invest in real estate, and then you make a decision based on your current portfolio and current diversification, right? Those are key questions. Now, that's for the passive aspect. Now, if you want to be active and you have $500,000 to invest, like I said, ideally, you're active. Even if you're active, you have a property manager, right? This is the stage where you want to have a property manager. You want to be very intentional about how you're using your time, but it's also a stage where if you're trying to tap into tax savings, right, using short-term rentals or the real estate professional status, and if you're understanding the lingo, make sure you sign up for the free event, generationalwealthmd.com/event, so you can learn more. If you're looking to tap into those advanced tax strategies, then yes, it may make sense to be completely active, not have a property manager, but otherwise you're leaning into systems. You have a property manager where you can still own directly and maybe owning it by yourself without partners, but you want to be intentional about your time unless you're tapping into those advanced tax strategies. Do you want to do rehabs? Be very intentional about your strategy. When you join the free event, that's what we're going to do. We're going to help walk you through building your strategy and your roadmap so you can take action items and you have clarity about which direction you're leaning, what makes sense for you at this stage of life. Okay, perfect. We finished all three stages. I hope I gave you valuable information for whatever stage you're in. I hope it also was eye-opening to see how oftentimes saying that I don't have enough money to invest in real estate is actually just a limiting belief. Because like I said in the beginning, real estate is very interesting because you're really able to get started with little to no money in some cases because you can use leverage, you can use other people's money, and because you have creative financing options. Okay, that's it for this topic. Like I said, I'm super excited to hear all of your thoughts. And if you haven't signed up for the free event, make sure you do. That's generationalwealthmd.com/event. Cannot wait to see all of you there. This is just the tip of the iceberg in terms of everything that we can learn. And those of you looking to invest passively and get started, definitely lean into the free guide. That's gwcapital.com/guide as a due diligence checklist and a way to understand the terminology, but also take a look at the Houston opportunity that we only have open for the next few days. If you're considering move fast, it's gwcapital.com/Houston. I gave you tons of resources. Hopefully, I've given you something to think about, and can't wait to see you guys at the free event. Take care, everyone.